If you've clicked on this video, then you're just like me, a tiny bit obsessed with D&D. And when you get us talking about our characters, it's kind of hard to get us to stop.
Hi, do you have a second to talk about Dungeons and Dragons?
Sure.
Anyway, I'm going to tell you about the time a heist ended our campaign. But first, you're going to need a little backstory. I'm playing an illusion wizard named Belt Buckley. He's a terrible wizard. Think Gilderoy Lockhart from Harry Potter fused with Rincewind from Discworld. So after being kicked out of wizard school, Belt traveled the world, scamming every town he came across. He'd do this by staging illusionary battles with fake fireballs, pretending to be really powerful. And he'd even write books about his made-up exploits. Because when would all this lying ever come back to haunt him? The party arrive in a city, and Belt immediately gets contacted by a thieves guild who threaten to expose him. But they say they won't, so long as he does a heist for them. The item they wanted him to steal was some kind of scrying orb that let you see and hear a creature anywhere on the same plane of existence as you. But that wasn't why we were excited. See, we'd heard the word heist, and as I'm sure we all would, went full Ocean's 11. On our way to buy the supplies, we bumped into a group of kids who recognized Belt from his novels, and they asked for a picture. Naturally, we were all very confused because this is a fantasy kingdom where cameras don't exist. But the kids pull out a crystal that captured the image using magic. The Paladins player in particular got so excited at the idea of these selfie crystals and insisted we go buy some. And you'll find out later why we were so glad that we listened to her. But for now, it was time for Step 1. Synchronize our watches.
We don't have watches?
New Step 1. Buy watches, then synchronize them. Now, you might think this part is a joke, but no, we spent 30 minutes real-life time tracking down and negotiating the only watchmaker in the entire city. Step 2. We needed the target out of his house, and Belt was proficient with a forgery kit. So he forged a letter from the two queens inviting the nobleman to a party. We had to make sure he was locked away all night. And, as we all know, rich people are free key. So we told him to pre-drink a bunch and then turn himself into the palace guard, who would only lead him to the party when he told them the passphrase. I've been a very naughty boy. Take me away, officer. We also told him the guards might not listen at first, so to be really insistent. Now that that was dealt with, it was time for step 3. Murder hobo.
Wait, what?
So we snuck through the sewers into the noble district, and with the nobleman no longer home, we just needed to go through the gardens. But as we made our way towards the house, we passed a perception check and saw a group of shadowy figures dart across the lawn. There was another group robbing the place. This heist had just turned into a race. We started to panic, but our forge cleric quickly stone-shaped us an entrance in the nearest wall and we climbed inside. The warlock had the great idea to use his hat of disguise to turn into the nobleman and speak with the other thieves. But obviously, they weren't happy to see him either, so it accomplished nothing and they tied him up. We eventually freed him, but it was too late. The other group were now ahead. We began searching the place from top to bottom, and finally found a secret lever that revealed a secret tunnel. Descending deeper into the cellar, we spent the next hour avoiding traps and solving some puzzles. Eventually, we reached a room with holes in the walls, and who should be there but 2 of the 3 members of our rival thieves. It turned out the room was filled with pressure plates that would release sleep gas whenever anyone moved inside. We didn't have a rogue in the party to disarm it, but luckily for us, Drow have Fey ancestry and are immune to magical sleep, so our paladin and warlock just dragged us across while we snoozed. Once safely through, we had 2 corridors to go through. We went through the left. We dealt with a few more traps and eventually wrapped around into a large chamber with the crystal ball on the far side. Suspecting a trap, the Forge Cleric and I began to look around, just as the DM began describing the giant golden gyroscope in the ceiling to us. The Ranger picks up the crystal. All hell breaks loose. The giant sphere immediately transforms itself into a giant mech and proceeds to kick the living crap out of us. The fight ended with 3 of the party downed and the cleric barely delivering the final blow. And you might be wondering, that wasn't so bad. What's the big deal? Well, we'd got the object, but we still had a problem. There was going to be a lot of heat, and the city guard would be suspicious of any newcomers in town. So, we decided to frame the rival thieves asleep in the other room. It was time for a new We would take our selfie crystals and disguise ourselves as the rival party. Then we'd go around the house, posing in all sorts of incriminating ways, and leave the pictures with the sleeping bodies to be discovered. It was perfect. There was no way anyone would know that it was us. We're gonna frame them.
We're gonna frame them.
Everyone froze. The voice had come from the right-hand corridor. Peeking around the corner, our worst fears were confirmed. We saw a kenku stuck to the ceiling. It must have got caught in some kind of glue trap. And suddenly, we had a problem. You see, kenkus mimic what they hear. And this one had heard everything. Now at this point, you might assume that any normal party would maybe cut the bird down, negotiate a deal, slip them a bribe. That's what any normal party would do. Not mine. See, we were pretty low on spell slots, and the bird was out of reach on the ceiling. But then the warlock had an idea. His acid splash would kill the bird and silence it for good. So he cast it. The issue is, acid splash only does around 1d6 damage, so it didn't die straight away. Nope. He had to keep casting it. And casting it. And casting it. And with every cast, the kenku would scream. By the time it was done, and the DM was describing the sizzling puddle of feathers and what used to be bird on the ground, everyone at the table was traumatized. We played out the rest of the session enacting the plan, but from that moment on, we knew our good campaign was over. We were definitely the bad guys. If only everything had gone according to